Hey everyone, Craig Warwick here with a review of the Mezco Toys King Kong of Skull Island figure. This is a little different from my usual Marvel Legends pickup, but I'm also a big horror and monster fan, and when a good looking monster toy comes along for a good price, I can't resist. Speaking of a good price, I picked up Kong for under £30 from Kapow Toys. That seems like a great price to me for this kind of figure, but let's see if I do get a kaiju sized bang for my buck. Kong looks great out of the package with a very detailed sculpt. His body is almost entirely covered by fur, and it's all very well done and finely detailed with tufts sticking out here and there. All those pointy tufts do actually make him a little painful to pose though, as the plastic is quite hard and digs into my hands as I move to articulate him, but we'll get to that later. His fur is cast in a black plastic with lighter shades of grey and brown paint dry brushed on top. It really does look great, and even though he's covered in fur, you can still make out the musculature that makes him more of an exaggerated monster than an actual gorilla. Where Kong doesn't have fur, his tough skin is really nicely realised. Again, cast in black plastic but with just a grey dry brush this time. It looks appropriately leathery, and on his face and chest there are scars of his battles with the other titans of Skull Island, detailed with a touch of pink paint. His hands and feet receive similar leathery sculpts and they look great. Kong comes with 5 alternate hands. He has 2 closed fists, 2 open fists, and a more open gesturing right hand. The hands are made of a soft plastic, so there's a little give to the fingers and they swap out easily at the wrists. Moving on to the head, and the face sculpt is suitably stern, again using the great skin and fur textures and paint applications. The design of the face may not look like any movie Kong we've seen, but that's because this is based on the art of Joe DeVito from the illustrated novel King Kong of Skull Island by Joe DeVito and Brad Strickland. In the novel, it's detailed how the Kong species differ from just being a giant gorilla, standing upright and having more human than simian eyes, and that's carried over to this figure with the eyes nicely painted, showing a lot more of the white of the eye than you would expect on a normal primate. Kong also comes with a roaring, angry alternate head, which looks absolutely amazing, with his lips pulling back to bare his gums and fangs. The paint on the mouth looks great, and the heads easily swap out. Kong also comes with these 2 broken shackles from when he was put on show in Manhattan, escaped and rampaged his way up the Empire State Building. They look really good and actually hinge open and closed. The cuff is made of plastic and the chain is made of metal. Both look suitably worn and fit around Kong's wrists. They're not big enough to fit around his ankles though. Kong's final accessory is this little figure of cinema's most iconic damsel in distress, Anne Darrow. Anne is made of a soft plastic, so there's little chance of her tiny limbs snapping off. She isn't articulated, but she has a decent enough sculpt for her size, with the folds of her dress in particular showing up nicely. The paint is basic and a little sloppy at places. The face is, well, it's a face only a 30-foot gorilla could love, really, but I'm not going to judge it too harshly given the size. The paint does reveal that Anne has lost a shoe somewhere along the way. That's a really nice detail. Anne fits best into Kong's open right fist. The soft plastic of the fingers and the little figure mean it's easy to squeeze her in there, and Kong holds her tight. Let's take a look at Kong's size. Kong stands just under 7 inches tall, which makes him about a 1:50 scale figure if we go by the book's description of him being 30 feet tall. Here he is compared to a Marvel Legends figure, and NECA's Godzilla figure, and an SH Monster Arts Mechagodzilla. Classic Kong isn't really big enough to fight Godzilla, but the new movies have made him much bigger with that ultimate goal, so he can fit alongside your other kaiju figures. Oh, and here's Kong next to a couple of other Mezco figures I have, Judge Dredd and the Red Skull, and I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel for 8 figures here, but here's him compared to Shit Monkey. Let's take a look at his articulation next, but I have to say that out of the box some of his joints were very tight and I was scared they were going to break, but I took it slowly and he seems to be moving okay now, but still with some resistance. Please be careful of using too much force with this guy. Kong's head is on an angled ball joint so he can look side to side a little. rotate his head this way, and look up this much, but not really down. His shoulders rotate and move up this much. His arms rotate at the elbow and also have a single jointed hinge that bends to just under 90 degrees. His hands are on ball joints, so they rotate and pivot. Kong has a diaphragm joint that rotates, leans this far forward and back, and leans side to side. Kong's hips are also ball joints and don't have a great range of motion forward, back, or out to the side. You can get a bit more posability from them by rotating them though. Like his elbows, his legs rotate at the knees, but there isn't much hinge movement due to the sculpt wanting him to be in a default hunched pose. His feet are on ball joints, so they rotate and pivot around like this. And this is his widest possible stance, still with both feet flat on the floor. So that's King Kong of Skull Island. Despite some limited articulation, I really like this figure. The sculpt and paint are wonderful and the accessories are a lot of fun. I really recommend picking him up, especially if you're a kaiju or monster fan. Although with King Kong vs Godzilla on the horizon, perhaps NECA will be making a more modern take on Kong in the coming years. Are there any movie monsters that you guys would like to see in figure form? Let me know in the comments below. I've always been a fan of the Blob, but quite how they'd make that figure, I don't know. At the end of my Grey Gargoyle review, I asked what C-list villains you all would like to see. Freighter Sanguinus responded with this great list of quirky baddies. I agree with all of these, but in particular, I'd totally be up for the Molecule Man, Diablo, and the Wizard. So thanks for commenting, Freighter Sanguinus. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit that bell down there. And why not check out some other reviews here on my channel, or some of my custom action figure work. Wherever you go from here though, pour on the power. Bye-bye.